The green room is moving, and I live here, which means that I have to move with all my clothes and my furniture and my dishes. I've got this didgeridoo. I'll probably take that with me. Oh gosh, I've got a whole herd of... Man, how am I going to move with all these snakes? Well, I'll probably take it with me anyway. I think Maya would be offended if I didn't. So, do you get that? Yeah, black-headed python. Australian, you get it. Welcome to the Green Room 1.0. This video is going to take us to the Green Room 2.0, and in case you missed the live stream where I talked about it, the reason that I'm moving all of a sudden is because this unit that I'm in is an ADU or a guest house that was built years ago and it was never permitted. It's actually a really nice, well-built place, but the city of Burbank is requiring that it be torn down, and I figure I should be out of here before that happens. Echo, what do you have in your nostril? She's whistling when she breathes. That's not what this video is about, but this little bit of whistling. That little bit of whistling is not respiratory infection. That means she just has a little something stuck in her nostril. Anyway, let's get back to the point of the video. Here, you go up here. It's a little bare right now. Stuff's been taken down. This question comes up a lot online. People say, I'm moving, but I have all these snakes. How do I do it? Well, I'll show you how I'm going to do it, and we'll talk about some other options. Now, when I found out that I had to move, I was pretty stressed because it's tough to find a landlord who's willing to accept a human and a pile of snakes. But I got lucky. I found a landlord who used to keep boas, and he doesn't have a problem with having snakes in the building. And this place is only about a mile away. So this is going to be a short distance move, but we're going to talk about long distance moves as well. I have about 30 snakes right now, and their enclosures are a mix of tubs and cages. Now, this is the time that I would be doing a full clean out anyway, so the timing is good for this. I've got movers who are coming to help carry furniture, boxes, cages, things like that. And then I've got a couple people, Lucy and Cara, who are going to help set up the snakes once we get there. So here's the plan. A couple hours before the movers get here, I'm going to start emptying enclosures and putting snakes in snake bags. I'm going to send the enclosures to the new place as is, and they can be cleaned over there. Now, the snakes can go in tubs like this one, but I've also rented plastic boxes for the move, and they can go in those as well. As long as the snake bags are secured, they can go in a few bins, and those can go in my car to transport the actual snakes. I don't want the snakes in the back of a moving truck for any period of time, just because it's hot back there and things can shift around and fall or whatever, so it's just better to move the snakes in my car. I also have a couple of snake buckets. This is one that I use for herping, and it's cleaned and sanitized. I'm going to put Echo and Stella in here. They are super dwarf reticulated pythons, not venomous reptiles as the bucket would have you believe. And then the other one is brand new. This is a new invention that Steve Solomon was nice enough to send me one of these. It's a snake bucket, but it's basically one of those stools that's collapsible, but he put a clear window right here so you can put the snake in there. You wouldn't use it as a stool, but that's the design. I have one like this. It's a stool. But you put the snake in there and it's fully ventilated, and it's got this lid that you can see through. So it's pretty cool. I don't think that they have a website, but Steve Snake Charmers Basket at gmail.com. It's pretty cool for herping or relocating snakes, but I'm going to use it for the first time with Maya. I'm going to let her crawl in there, and then I'll just keep it on its side so that she can lay across it, and I'll stuff something so it doesn't, roll back and forth. So I think it'll work well. Once we get the enclosures and snakes to the new place, Lucy and Cara will be there to work on cleaning and sanitizing the enclosures. Then we'll add substrate, height, and a water dish and get the snakes back in. I'll work on making things nice and adding enrichment items later. We just want to get the snakes back in their cages as soon as possible. Moving a few minutes down the road is probably the best scenario for snakes if you're going to make a move. But if you're moving long distances, there are a few more things to think about with regard to safety. Now, I probably would do the same thing as far as packing the snakes up and moving them in a climate-controlled vehicle, but the packing would be done a little bit better. I'd pack them almost as if I were shipping them. You know, I still could put them in crates or plastic bins, but I probably would put paper around each one, you know, kind of give them a paper nest so that each snake bag had its own little nesting system. And then I might actually ship some of the snakes as well, you know, pack them up in boxes and put them in FedEx to ship them if I needed to. But let's talk to someone who's actually done a long distance snake move. My friend Garrett Hartle moved from Southern California all the way to Pittsburgh with a whole ton of snakes shortly before starting Reach Out Reptiles. So let's find out how he did it. Garrett Hartle, thanks for joining me.
Bledsoe. How the heck are you, buddy?
You know, I'm good. It's always good to see you. Tell me about when you made this move from Southern California to Pittsburgh. How many snakes did you have?
Well, snakes and reptiles together. I didn't have anything near what I have now. So I think I moved about a dozen animals across the country. That being said, having the business, we've moved. So like I'm 20 miles from my basement, where if you watch our early videos, I was filming in there. And I moved thousands of snakes 20 miles. And we're always moving something. Like I'm actually going out to Indianapolis to rescue a small alligator. So I mean, everything from like, so like snake, by small, I mean like 4 feet. So this is not that small, but moving reptiles is a constant for our life.
So tell me how you did the Southern California to Pittsburgh move, and then tell me if there was anything different when you moved from your old facility to your new one.
What I did when I moved 20 miles and across the country was actually the same thing. It's just when I had to move further, I had to do a better job of that same packaging. So when I moved 20 miles, I packed them up like I was going to ship them across the country. And that way, when I get all the, containers of animals moved here, I can just set them down and they're okay just in that container while I set up their environment, get temperatures dialed in and everything. They can be there even overnight or longer if they need to, and that's okay. There's a lot of other stuff that happens in the move. When I moved across country, I put them in the exact same types of containers. But what I did was I made sure in that instance, for example, the first problem you're going to run into is shelter out of you think of their core needs, right? They need shelter, which includes good temperatures. They need air, they need water, and then eventually they'll need food. If you're talking about a snake, the shelter is actually the most important. If you overheat them, or if you you freeze them, especially overheating, they can die quickly. You got to make sure that temperature insulated box is ready to rock. Second thing they need is air. Easy to handle, give them some air holes, but make sure that you do it, or they're going to run into an issue before very long. And then the third thing is water. So on a cross-country trip, I had to worry about water. The third element that you don't worry about in a shorter move. The way that I did that was I brought plastic totes, ventilated, and every night I stopped in a hotel, I would lay out all the plastic totes. I would move them from their temperature insulated containers, now that we're in room temperature, and I would put them in just enough water for them to like soak basically half the depth of their body. You don't want them swimming and getting exhausted. You just want them to sit and soak and rehydrate. And then the next day, it was pack them all back up again, and we hit the road. So every night I had to give them water, because in that case, it was 4 to 5 days in transit.
So the boxes that you had the snakes in, did you have them in your truck or a van or something that was temperature controlled?
I had a vehicle, like a car, and they were basically all in the back seat. So I'd have my insulated shipping box, like cardboard box, styrofoam line, air holes and everything. And then they had their individual containers, whether it was bags, or if you have a lot of animals in one, you don't want bags, you want something with hard sides so they don't crush each other. So like deli cups for babies, boxes for bigger animals. So I had them all in there, one big box, heft all the snakes. Then I had a stack of my clear plastic tubs ready to go that, had secure lids that I could put them in the hotels.
Right. So they were just in your car, so it was temperature controlled. And
in the car, temperature controlled. That's really, really important to do.
It sounds like this is basically the same thing that I'm doing. It's just that you have to pack them better, and you've got to consider water if you're
Yeah.
moving for multiple days.
Right. Yeah. If they're going overnight, water is not a consideration. You can hydrate them before they go and then hydrate them in their cage on the other end. But if it's multiple days, more than say, 48 hours in transit, you have to stop and rehydrate the animal.
So I think of this like Dan at DM Exotics. Sometimes you watch his videos and he's either packing up or unpacking a big crate of snakes.
Yep.
And I'm just saying this for people that don't understand how multiple snakes are packed up to ship. It's in proper containers, but there's usually paper or something in between each animal that kind of gives them their own little spot.
There's a lot of ways to do it. People, a lot of times they see the animal squeezed in a small, what you really want is a small safe container and then a big crumple zone around them. So it has air, fluff filling, things like that. If you have let's say a 12 by 12 inch box and you put a baby snake in a 16-ounce deli cup in the middle of it, that's the way you want to do it. You don't want a 12 by 12 enclosure in a 12 by 12 box that snake's getting thrown around
Right.
and it's not under control at all. So I get the comment a lot from people who don't know about reptile safety when they have these small travel size containers. There's a lot that goes into the big container, but then you want a bunch of little tiny containers to keep everybody separate and everybody happy in the meantime. Don't move, just sit here. We're going to get you there safely and it's going to be okay. Same philosophy.
Garrett, thank you so much for sharing your experience.
Yeah, I wish I lived closer. I could help you move, man. I mean, they say good friend will help you move. A really good friend will help you move a body. I think we're like the good friend.
Well, as long as you say you'll help me move, that's all I need. So
it's easy to commit from the other side of the country. So,
all right, my friend, thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it.
Good luck with the move, Bob.
All right, see you later. I thought I'd bring Banjo, my black-headed python, out for our Patreon scroll, where we scroll the names who make up the secret society known as the Horde of Keepers over on patreon.com/greenroompythons. Banjo did really well with the move, and I don't think I mentioned that, I was trying to keep Maya in her own container and Banjo in his own container because black-headed pythons are snake eaters. And even in a snake bag, I didn't want them in the same container as a bunch of other snakes because it could get weird for them trying to look for food or whatever. So Banjo went in his own little tote, as did Handsome Dan, my boa. I put him in his own little tote, and they did really well. So anyway, this week I'm going to be sending out perks to some of the Horde of Keepers who are up for them, t-shirts, sticker packs, stuff like that. And if you're interested in learning what all those perks are, including get-togethers that we're planning, stuff like that, check out the Green Room Pythons over on Patreon. Also, you can join the Green Room Pythons Patreon for free, and I put out weekly behind-the-scenes updates of what's happening in the Green Room for all the members, whether you're a free member or on one of the paid tiers. So, that's an option as well. Anyway, thanks so much to these guys who probably have finished scrolling right about now. And special thanks to our channel sponsors who are very supportive of the channel as well. That's Black Box Cages, Lane Labs, the Royals Project, and Rare Genetics RGI. So I always recommend that you support these guys if you're looking for snakes or snake food or caging or genetics testing, not only for morphs, but also sexing your ball pythons. If you want to find out if your snake is a male or female, send RGI $25 and they'll sex your snake. Okay, let's get back to the green room. Pretty much all set up. Thanks so much to Garrett at Reach Out Reptiles for that insight. Garrett, by the way, is the one who produced this snake. This is Echo, who we saw at the top of the video, who, by the way, managed to dislodge whatever was stuck in her nostril, causing that whistling sound. And, if I had heard wheezing or clicking from her, I would have been concerned about potentially a respiratory infection. But I know what it sounds like when a snake has something in their nostril, and that's why I wasn't concerned about that. I don't think I explained that very well the other day. So, have we closed the loop on that storyline? I think so. Let's get back to the topic of this video. So it's the same mindset when you're moving a longer distance. It's just a bigger project. It's a matter of putting the needs and the comfort of your animals first and anticipating anything that needs to be taken care of, like temperature control, water, stuff like that. By the way, on that note, with temperature control, snakes can go a really long time without their normal temperature gradient that you provide them in their cages. So that's not that big of a deal as long as the snake doesn't get too hot or too cold in their carrying tote. Now, the one time that they do need a warmer temperature is when they're digesting. And so it's important that they're not digesting during your move. Don't feed them right before you leave. And remember, it's healthy for a snake to give their digestive system a break for a week or two. So this is a really good time to do that. You know, feed them a week before you move, let them digest, then make the move, and then let them set a week. It's a good thing to do. Where are you going? You going to pull that plant down? I don't want you to do that. I'd rather you just stay with me. I'd rather you just hang out with me. We're not ready for snakes to free roam yet. So at this point, I'm a few days into this new place, and there's still a lot to do, but the move went as expected. We got the snakes in as quickly as possible and got them nicely set up thanks to the help of Lucy and Cara. There were a couple of things, like just minor things, like I didn't have as much cocoa husk bedding as I thought I had, so I sent Cara to the pet store to get some, and they were all out of it. So she ended up buying the store's entire supply of Reptibark. I was like, just get the Reptibark. We'll use that, which I've never used before. So I've got some snakes on bark, which I don't really like. I need to order some cocoa husk. And but other than that, the move went really well. I haven't fed anyone yet. I'm giving them a little bit of time to settle. Even though they're in their same enclosures, they know that they're in a different space. I've had a few bold snakes like Echo and a couple ball pythons come out and explore around. And as they're exploring around, they're very slow and deliberate about it. They know it's a new space. They know they're somewhere different. And I mean, you'll notice Echo, even though she's trying to get to this plant, she's been very slow. Normally she's trying to get away. She knows exactly where she's going in the old green room. And she's not doing that now because she knows she's in a new spot. So I'm letting them settle in just like you would with a new snake before they go in that hide. I'm letting them settle in just like you would if you got a new snake. They're gonna be here, I think, 6 days before I feed them. I'm gonna try to feed them tomorrow. I expect all the non-ball pythons to eat, and I expect about 75% of the ball pythons to eat. Maybe Future Bob can cut in here with an update. Hi folks, Future Bob here. Sure, I'll cut in with some results. By the way, I got a new fancy hat, thanks to my Uncle Steve for this one. So here's how the numbers shook out. Past Bob was very accurate. 100% of the non-ball pythons ate, and technically 75% of the ball pythons ate. That was dead on, except that would be including 2 snakes that we didn't try to feed because they're in shed. So out of the snakes that we tried to feed, 82% of them ate. And 2 snakes that I didn't expect to eat took meals. So that's really good. That shows that the snakes weren't too traumatized by the move. You know, I quite liked the original green room, and I'm sad to have had to leave. But you may have heard me talk about the small size of that place. Basically, with all the cages that I currently have, I was completely full, which didn't leave any room just in case I wanted to get a snake that would eventually require a 5 or 6 or 8 foot cage, like a carpet python or a false water cobra or a scrub python, something like that. Now, this place isn't huge, but it's much bigger than the old green room, which gives me some space. And I'm not saying that I'm going to get any of those species, but it's nice to have the option. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.